What's going on, y'all? Hey, what's going on, y'all? Hey, we're back today. We're going to shoot a little video trying to talk about the intricacies of LiveScope, and to show you guys it is not nearly as easy as these keyboard warriors make it out to be. It's a lot more challenging than you might think. You know, I think the biggest misconception with LiveScope is that it's just easy. You get out here, you see them, you throw at them, and you catch them, and that is not the case. I can't stand the people that think it's just so much easier. Is it easier to catch them when you see them? Sure it is. Sometimes it is, but there's a lot of days where I don't catch a whole lot, and I see 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 fish on this thing. There's a lot of intricacies into it. You have to pay attention to which way the fish is swimming, wind direction, boat positioning. It all goes hand in hand. So we got one right here at, let's see, right here at see if we can find him. Where'd he go? Right here at 60. Where'd he go? Lost him. I don't know where he went. This is a perfect example of what not to do, right? You don't want to be going with the wind when you're doing this, especially when you know there's fish around, because you're moving too fast, and it's hard to get a read on them because you're coming up on them so quick. By the time your bait ever gets to them, especially when they're 30 foot deep, you're already right on top of the fish. So this is a prime example of what not to do. I mean, a prime example. You always want to be going into the wind if you can help it. And especially when you're going with the wind, it's hard to judge. It's hard to judge if they're coming at you, going away from you, if they're swimming to the left or right, because you're fighting the boat at the same time. So obviously, you want to put every advantage you can into your own hands, so you need to go into the wind so you have just a little bit more control over your boat. And you know, obviously when it's not windy, it doesn't really matter which way you go. It's something you want to pay attention to, because you might come at a certain angle and bring your bait a certain way, and you know, they might trigger a little better that way. So, I mean, so there's always something to pay attention to, but especially when you're live scoping, dude, I mean, it's such a big deal to be able to get a read on which way the fish is sitting, which way he's going, because you do have to lead them, especially when they're deep like this. If you don't lead them, you'll never, you're going to waste a lot of casts chasing them. And your first cast is your most important one, because that fish isn't aware of your presence yet. If you're casting out there and making splash, 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 that fish knows something's going on. He senses, they can feel the sense. I can't tell you how many times I've thrown and my bait's splashed and the fish has either started coming up or he runs, just because he hears or senses the bait splash the water. And I think that's another thing. You always, you know, just like fishing shallow, you want to present your bait as quietly as possible, as to so your bait, you know, sneaks up on them. They're just because they're 30 foot deep doesn't mean they can't sense what's going on up top. They 1000% can, especially when the water's clean like it is here. When it's dirty and they can't see as well, obviously they're going a little more off their lateral line, so you can, you know, you don't have to be as precise and quiet when the water's muddy, just because they can't see anything, so they're not so visual. But generally speaking, the best LiveScope legs do have some form of clarity. Not all. I've caught a lot of fish LiveScoping in muddy water. But, you know, just generally speaking, the cleaner the water, just the better the fish's senses are to their surroundings. They see a lot better, and they're a whole lot more. I tend to think they're a little smarter just because of that water clarity. So that's why it's important to look at all the details when you're live scoping. And you know, I think it's important to have a good unit to do this, because obviously the further out you see them, the better chance you have at catching them, right? So, you know, like, I tend to keep my trolling, when I'm scoping, I keep my trolling motor I run it a little higher, just because I can cover more water that way, right? So the thing is, the further out you can see them, the better, because if you got your trolling motor at, you know, I got this move at 13, that's almost 3/4 power. I'm moving at 2 miles an hour. It doesn't take me long to cover 80 feet. If I see one and he's coming at me and I'm going to him, you know, it doesn't take long to get to him. So that's why, you know, it's a little bit, it's important to go into the wind, just so the wind will help kind of slow you down. And that's why it's important to be able to see further out, because if you see him at 100 feet, you just have a better chance of intercepting them before they get too close and kind of, you know, sense the boat. You know, but obviously the windier it is, the harder live scoping gets, just because, you know, it's hard to control the boat, and the wind's pushing your line, so it's pulling your bait. It just gets way more challenging. Like, it's not super windy today, but it's windy enough to kind of impact things just a little bit. You know, obviously when it's calm, live scoping's it's not overly difficult. It comes down to catching them at that point. However, you know, it's not calm most days, so you can't really call it easy all the time. I think the biggest misconception, or one of the bigger misconceptions, is that it's made fishing easier, and it has in some aspects, especially with suspended fish and things like that, where groups of fish you've never been able to target them before. I think it's made anglers more efficient. That's the word we need to use, not easier. It's made fishing it's made anglers more efficient in all aspects. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to catch more fish. It's just made you more efficient in fishing shallow brush, out here doing this, because, you know, you can pull up to an area if you see them there, make a few casts. You can tell if they're going to bite. They'll bite pretty quick. If not, you can move on. It's just a tool that's allowed anglers to catch more fish, which I don't know why we don't want that. I don't know why guys don't want to catch more fish. It's mind-boggling to me. It truly is. I think it's I can't wrap my head around why guys don't want to catch more fish. I mean, dude, it's really this simple. If you don't like it, don't use it. Just don't use it. But don't get mad at me because I use it and I'm more efficient. That's all I'm saying. I've only been using it for 4 years. I've got 21 years of experience without it. So let's just go ahead and put that out there for the haters. I think that the guys that use it now, that's all they've ever done. That is not the case. So I'll catch them with it or without it. It don't matter to me. I'm fine either way. I think another thing that's important as far as making a good cast, and something I've realized over the last several years, is when I mount my transducer, instead of mounting it perfectly straight, I'll have it offset to the left, just a smidge, because I cast with my right hand and I tend to do sidearm cast, and when I do that, I have a tendency to pull the bait just a hair to the left. So taking that into account, if I move my transducer just a hair to the left, when I do pull it, which I tend to do almost every time I cast, just a smidge, I'm talking a foot at the most, I can still catch my cone angle. I can still catch my bait out there on a long cast, because my cone angle is just a hair to the left, and if I do cast it perfectly straight, it's still on the screen. So just something to keep in mind. Depending on how you cast, you might want to offset your transducer just a hair to compensate for a slight pull, or you might cast with your left hand, so you might pull it just a hair to the right. Just something to keep in mind. Here's two right here at 70 feet. So I'm going to try to make a judgment. I'm not going at them. They're moving, pretty much coming right at me. So I'm just going to... They're moving to the right. Just a hair. Still worked out, I'm still going to get them. Or not. Now these ones are moving to the right. So I'm just going to try to lead them just a hair to the right. Now these ones are moving quick. I mean, they're moving way to the right. Now they're moving away from me, so now they got sucked hard on the bottom, so now they're almost impossible to see. Gosh, man. So here's one right here. 60 feet coming right at me. And I made a pretty good cast. Here he comes. Here comes this one. I'm going to drop it down and see if I can get to that other one. Here's this one. He's going to bite it. Oh my gosh. Got him. Just a little guy. But if you saw when he came up to, he got right all over it, and then at the last, he was all over it, and I just started moving it faster and faster, trying to get it away from him, and he came up and clobbered it. Oh, here's a couple more right here. 80 feet. 3 of them. Over here to the left. I made a pretty decent cast. Yep, here comes this one. Got him. Yep. It's a nice one too. When they're biting, you just have to get it close. There's a bunch right here. Try to get it to them. I mean, there's a bunch right here. Swimming away. I mean, there's a bunch. Golly. Look at all of them on the bottom. Here's one right here at 70 on the back side of that rock. Made a pretty garbage cast. I'm bad drifting to the right, about pulling it to the left. I'm kind of drifting away. Alright, so here's 2 right here behind this rock. Let's see if I can make a good cast. So it should be pretty good. Got it. Big one. So like, I knew that one was stationary, so I knew if I could make a good presentation on the first time, he would probably bite. So like, now they're right here under, there's some right here under the boat. We'll see if these guys will bite. Oop, that guy's caught. big spot. That's a big one. Look how fat he is. I didn't know they grew that big in here. Look how fat that sucker is. I didn't know they grew that big in here. Dang! I was fully expecting that to be a smallmouth. That's unreal. That's a big one. Not what I want to see.
How fat they are this time of year even.
Hey, that's
what it looks like in the spring.
That's all herring. That's crazy. I didn't know they... I didn't know they got that big in here. Do what? This is a smallmouth. Big old gold one. I haven't caught many smallmouth here smaller than that. They're all about that size and bigger. I got great big ones. I got a mean mouth actually that was like 4 1/4. It's the biggest one I've caught. But I mean, a lot of them are about that size and just a little bigger. That 3 1/4 range is.